200. What's up? It's Tuesday morning, October 6th, and so now we're gonna launch into something different, something that every one of you will have to deal with. I say every single one of you. All right. So this is just reality, and that's caring for the older members of your family. Family can be kind of loosely based. It can be genetics. Something your true mother and father, grandma and grandmother based on reproduction. But then you have your logical family, your buddies. Um, we have my boys refer to a couple of my friends. We've been friends for a long time as their aunties and uncles, and kind of like Hawaiian style. And yeah, so and we care for them, and I spend time with them, and everybody is a kind of a unique family collective, and there's a lot more power in that. All right. Okay, so that's what we're going to be doing in terms of topic. I think it's really important, however, to give you the heads up of what you need to do right now in terms of critical thinking assignment number 2 right here, which is due Monday. All right, so I'm going to click right here. All right, and we're going to scroll down to the actual assignment right here. And, just take your time and actually read the assignment, okay? And it's not that difficult, all right? So we're going to ask you to go to this website to gather data, okay? Pretty superficial data. It's really easy to get, okay? You'll see later on that we ask you to kind of, I think, really select 2 fairly different groups so you can look at the uniqueness of how people spend their out-of-pocket expenses in terms of covering their healthcare services, and then the second part is by looking at 2 unique groups. What percentage it is of their income, and that's the really important part to kind of look at. For some people, people like myself, that I'm doing pretty well. Yeah, it's irritating how much money I have to spend in terms of my healthcare costs, but it's a smaller percentage of my income compared to somebody else. Well, the healthcare cost is the same. If I have tonsillitis and somebody else has tonsillitis, it's the same cost, but it may be a much larger percent of their income and be a much bigger hardship. Okay. All right, so we look at part 1. We actually give the answer right here. We just want you to kind of look through here. This is looking at average of our country. Okay, so we're not looking at individuals, and then you guys are going to parse this out as individuals. Okay, so this is the average right here, and we look at the out-of-pocket expenses and what they are. Okay, and we see that. We're looking right here. This is the actual premium. Okay, so this is how much I pay for my insurance if I am using Medicare. Okay, and I will be accessing Medicare after age of 65. Okay, and then there's supplemental insurance that is built upon the Medicare program that that is kind of haves and have-nots. So I'm going to get the most Cadillac version that I can get. Okay. And that'll be reflected in my monthly premiums. Okay, and so this is in terms of the total annual out-of-pocket expenses in 2016. The premiums made up 42% for all of America. Okay, and that's because Medicare doesn't always cover the entire cost of the service. Okay, we have not only seeing your doctor, we have hospitalization, we have drugs. Okay. All these different services have a different percentile coverage of your by Medicare insurance. So then you see how you have these extra additional services, and we see here that the big one is long-term care facilities. Okay, so this is where you are going to a nursing home, and so Medicare has a fairly limited coverage of nursing home costs. Okay, there's a window where the percent basis is good, okay? But once you've passed that stay, 90 days, then suddenly it's completely out of pocket, okay? So these are, significant costs for people. And so we can see down, boom, 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 the costs and how they stack up. And then what we want you to do is, so this is how it's all set up. And so it's pretty easy to answer the question up here. This is the top expense. This is the second expense. This is the third. This is the fourth, like that. So if you had to rank it, okay, that's what we're doing right there, okay. Then we want you to analyze two different groups by going to the figure right here. And this kind of is a step-by-step right here. Again, we're still looking at the same concept, but now we're doing it based on individual groups of people, okay. So for example, right here, I was looking at gender, okay, and we could see male versus female differences in terms of out-of-pocket expenses. Okay, and I, like I said, check it out. Education level. That's going to be a big one. Check that one out. Okay. All right. So you select these groups and you look at the differences, and then you do your analysis on that. Okay. And then you come down here and this is kind of the biggie. It's the same two groups that you selected when you're in this one right here. You come down here and you select those same two groups, and you're looking at now the share of income. Okay, so all these expenses that I'm spending on a monthly basis, what percentage of my monthly income is that? So how much of a hardship is it for Medicare beneficiaries in terms of these out-of-pocket healthcare costs? Okay, so you select your group, okay, and you see you'll get this percent ranking of the share of income. Okay, all right. So let's go to the website, make sure it's working. Okay, so I'm going to click right here. Alrighty, and it's so I'm using my wireless, and so here it comes, baby. Okay, and awesome. Okay, so I'm going to accept the cookies. Okay, I don't really care. All right, so and so this is the article, and in terms of your analysis, it's a fairly short read, so I encourage you to just kind of read through this. Okay, they explain it. Okay, so again, this is the original chart. Okay, so 42%, all of America, we take you all together and we look at the average. So 42% of the out-of-pocket healthcare cost expenses are the insurance payment you make every month, the premium, okay? Followed by 32% being long-term care, medical provider, okay? This would be going to see my physician, okay? Prescription drugs, dental, this is all how they're all ranked up, okay? Now we come down here, okay? What I wanted you to do is I wanted you to blow by that, and I wanted you to do this one, and I wanted you to do this one right here, okay? Because it's the share of income. So we're just having you do two. We're not having you do the first one up here, okay? So we come down here and it says how much do Medicare beneficiaries spend in terms of out-of-pocket expenses on different types of health-related services, okay? So so what you do then is you see how I clicked here, and I'm going to change. I'm going to look at a group. We can do it by race and ethnicity. Okay, all right. And so we can see that we look at all these different services that again were listed right up here. Okay, so all these different services, as well as the the insurance. We come down here to the group that I looked at. Okay. And we look at kind of, this is the overall average for everybody, okay? And then we can look right here, and you see how the numbers come up like that, based on Hispanics, based on blacks, and based on whites. And the first thing that pops out is that there is a disparity in the ability to pay for these services, okay? So you see that white people have more income, and so we're paying for a lot more services, okay? We catch things earlier, and we do better in terms of healthcare. All right, so that's part one right there. And you can choose another one. Here, I'll click right here, and we could look at, for example, just gender. Okay, all right. So this is the overall, and then we look at men versus women, and we see that women are spending more for their services than men. Okay, all right. So just find something that's of interest to you, basically, in terms of the drop-down menus. Okay. So now we're going to look over here, okay, at the percentage of out-of-pocket expenses. This is right here based by age. They selected that for us, okay. And we see that, of course, your out-of-pocket is going to be much greater as you get older because you fall apart when you get older. You're much more likely to have health issues as you get older. So I want to go back over here again, and I'm going to look at race and ethnicity. Okay, all right, and we're going to come down here, right here, and okay, so we're looking at the median out-of-pocket spending as a share of income. Remember, white people were spending more money, so it's a larger percentage of their income. Okay, um, so, right here, it's a smaller percentage because they, you have to kind of think this through. Why is this happening? It's because oftentimes Hispanic and Black communities are not seeking out the health care that the white communities are. Okay, we can come down here again and we can look at gender and do some research on it. And we'll look right here, and again, it's a higher percentage of women compared to men. All right, so that's how you do that, and then how do you grasp this? I'm going to move myself out of the way. I want to make my figure a little bit easier to access, so I'm making it smaller here. So I just went up to my computer. You go to the 3 bars and you hit your zoom. So I zoomed it down, okay, so that it's a reasonable size, okay. All right, so that's the figure right here. And what I'm going to do then is, remember I showed you last time how to you can either do the print screen and crop it. It's easier just to do for my PC here. I do Windows sign Shift S. The box comes up, all right. So that's what I'm going to be doing. I'm going to be doing the box here. I'm going to grab like so. Okay, and that's more than adequate right there. And voila, I have the figure. And if I were to add, that's a little review from my other class, a new a new document. Okay, so this is my GERO200 paper. Okay, and then I'm just going to hit paste right here. And there's my figure, and you just grab it and you make it smaller so it fits your document. Okay, all right, so we're going to do that. So it'll be 4 figures total that you put into your paper. Okay, and yeah, so it's not so hard. Perfect. All right, I'm glad you guys got it wired. I know it seems like a lot, but it's really not a lot. Okay, so let's now do a little quick lesson on our weekly assignment. Okay, so we're going to scroll down here and find the week of October 5th right here. Super important stuff, okay, caregiving, right? Again, like I was saying, this was the topic this week. I love this painting. And it really does show, kind of right out of the Lion King, the circle of life, or whatever you want to call it. What goes around comes around. But we start with our mother caring for us, and then as the life course continues, what happens is, as a family collective, we do the right thing and we care for our mother, like so. Okay, which is cool. That's the way it should be, guys. It's a beautiful painting right here. All right, so there's a short article right here. This is the what the article looks like right here. The key features are just listed right here, and what you guys have kind of wrapped your head around population dynamics a little bit, and what's driving our population by age. And we had the baby boomers. We had population momentum in terms of the number of children that we had. Okay, so there's a lot of millennials, and but the reality is each subsequent generation is having lower and lower fertility. Okay, so this family collective becomes a problem. There's less younger people than that are going to be available to help care for older people. And care is not just dealing with medical issues. I mean, that's a big part of it, believe me. You're going to see that a big part of your care is making sure that you get your grandparents to doctors, to hospitalization, that you run to the pharmacy and get their drugs from them, especially in these crazy, COVID-19 times. And but also a big part of caregiving is the psychological support You know, if one of your grandparents loses their spouse, they're going to be very lonely, you know, and so you need to go, you know, the right thing to do is to help them. And this extends beyond your genetic family. So, you know, you're going to find your logical family is in the same boat. The older people, you know, that were so vibrant and so independent, people lose their independence and they need assistance, you know. And so, you know, as a compassionate society, we step up to bat. Okay. Now, when they say we, and I've gone through this, and you will go through this, you only have so much time in the day. Okay. And so all this time that you are spending doing this caregiving, you know, a lot of it is also finances. You know, at some point, your parents, grandparents are going to need help in making sure that the bills are being paid, that the services to maintain the household are being performed. You know, my son's trained up and he's the pool guy now. You know, I mean, these little things that you start transferring over to the next generation. They all take time, and time is money. Okay, and that's a really important way to look at this. Okay, all righty. So you can, you know, between your siblings, you can kind of work it out. All right. The Forever, the finding has been that the oldest daughter has the most significant burden in terms of caregiving, but it does get divided up amongst friends and siblings, but there's fewer, because the birth rate's lower, there's fewer people out there to provide the care. So this is this caregiving support ratio that we see right here, okay? So we see the caregiving support ratio, and we see they define it in here, and they define it further in their article. Okay, we see that, you know, in 2010 there were 7 potential caregivers for every person that was at high risk. They define that high risk person as somebody that's 80 plus. Sometimes that high risk person is 60 plus. You know, it just depends on how well the person's doing. Okay, but by 2030, okay, first of all, medical intervention means that people live a lot longer than they used to, okay? And then because of the drop in fertility, there's less people around to help these older people that need help, okay? That has a huge psychological and financial burden that we see this decline in the caregiving ratio, okay? So we, instead of having 7 to 1, we're at 3 to 1 in 2050. That's your future right around the corner, okay? All right, so that's, you know, it's, you know, in the article, when you go ahead and access by clicking on the PDF file right there, you know, again, this is, you know, the exact page that I was talking about right here. They explain how they're doing it. Again, you know, the long-term services and supports. This is where time and money become so important. Okay, they look at it kind of historically here, you know, as terms of how things were defined and how things changed, and I'll show you in the graphs. And then Julia provided a really excellent kind of review graph. Okay, and again, the take-home message is this shrinking availability of family caregivers. And then we're going to get in discussion into the kind of the diversity in terms of all the different cultures we have in our country. You know, and you know, we've really lost the power of the family collective in U.S. society. You know, I know that I turned 18 and I skedaddled and I never came back home, whereas other cultures often have multiple generations, aunties and uncles and grandmas. They combine their resources so they can get a much more badass house, okay? And then they have a tier of helping, who's doing the cooking, who's watching the children. You know, it's really well organized, and it's makes it a lot easier financially and in terms of psychologically that you can rely on somebody. We had a nanny that we had for our kids, and lo and behold, we found out the nanny was beating on our kids. You know, that's generally speaking not going to happen when you have a family collective. Okay, all righty. Cool. So this is again how they measure it right here, okay? Yeah, and then we can see down here graphically. I'll just run to it, okay? And you know, here's the big deal right here that we're talking about. This is, you know, when the boomers, okay, this is a while ago. We're at 2020, okay? And I'm right here, prime time. You know, I just turned 64, okay? So the boomers right here, okay? we were numerous and highly available for our parents to do the caregiving and our older friends. I just did the same thing for my next door neighbor. His kids, because of U.S. being geographically, we move all over the country. So I helped my neighbors out next door as best I could. Simple things like taking out their cans, bringing over food, and sadly they both passed away in the last 2 months, and so it was tough because they were my friends over the last 22 years. So this is examples of caregiving. Okay, this is me. Okay, out here. Okay, so I am going to be a user of the caregiver support. All right, so that's what this figure shows. Okay, and then these are just old figures, basically reworked stuff you already know. So this is the projected age groups of 45 to 64 population in the US, okay? And so that age group as a percentile, you see it going up and up and up and up, okay? Alrighty. And then we look down here, okay, at the projected age group of people over 80. And so yes, there are, going to be slightly more here. There's a flattening here, and that flattening is the alarming part because these are the most likely groups to doing the caregiving, and these are the people that most likely need the services. Okay, all right, and then we see the end result up here in terms of the caregiver ratio. All right, that's what it's all about, my friends. And again, open that up simultaneously with the quiz. And this is a reworking of the same figure, but it kind of explains it a little bit more with the graphics. So Julia just found this. It's awesome. And again, it's looking at this caregiver support ratio. All right. So you take care of your mom, but who will take care of you? All right. Because that's a kind of a crazy concept. A lot of you may not even have kids. You're lucky if you have one kid. That's just the American way now. Okay. So we're looking way out here, out to 2050, and we see this huge drop in the caregiver support ratio. All right, so this right here, this gets into the cultural nuances. Real quick video right here. This is an article. It's a really cool article by the American Psychological Association. So it does get into looking at different cultures across America. We can look at the Hispanic populations. We can look at African American populations, white caregiver populations, and then they also look at Asian populations. Okay, all right, and we see that Asian American caregivers are making less use of professional support services. Why? Because they take the burden on themselves. Okay. White populations are more likely to hire somebody out. Okay, this is cultural. Okay, and this is I think a good thing that Asian populations have, and it's a bad thing that's happened to white populations. Okay, it's costly, and oftentimes you don't know what you're getting. Okay, I'll tell you right now, my next door neighbors, and I was helping, and then the COVID-19 pandemic broke out. Julia has leukemia, and I had to stop going over there. So they had a home health aide coming to their house for 3 months, okay? $400 a day, $400 a day. That's how much it cost them, okay? And yeah, that's something to think about, right? All right. So when we look at this, again, this is by the APA, the American Psychological Association. They're asking, how do you fare? Because this is very taxing on you as an individual psychologically, because you're spread so thin between your own needs and now this person needs that's older that needs your care. And we see that ethnic minorities that are more likely to be doing the caregiving themselves reported much worse physical and psychological health. Okay, because it's a tough job. It's a thankless job. Okay. All right. So it goes through again, and it does a little comparison between ethnicities. It compares this to other countries a little bit in here. Okay. and then it gets into the unique situation for lesbian, gay, bisexual, and transgender caregiving. Okay, because they oftentimes have a much smaller circle, so the burden is much more significant. Okay, so it's a tough haul for these different groups. And then what's happening on rural America? Okay, rural America is poor. Okay, and as I indicated, oftentimes people spread. So you may have grown up in the farm country of Kansas, but now you got a job in Boston. So it's a tough situation. Awesome. Okay, so that's what that one's all about. Watch this video. He kind of spells it out. It's a very short video. Let's take a look at it. See, a minute 42. You can't lose with that. All right. Um, um, then we get into the social workers, and this is a great video. A lot of you, I know, are considering or being a social worker or for friends. So she talks about what her job's like, and I said, like I said here, social workers are heroes. Slightly longer video. It's a TED Talk about what social workers do. Okay, and this comes right here as a little graphic right here. Okay, first of all, who makes up, you need to be able to want to, because your job as a social worker is to help that needy person out, to make their life easier. Okay, so you professionally be trained how to assess the client's situation. Okay, it's not a super high paying job. Okay, a big thing that you do is through your networking, you're going to be referring the client to the correct treatment centers that they need to go to. And it's a modern world, so you're going to be actively training all the time. That's what that's all about. These are the potential when we look at the career trajectories. This is where you would work. So you can specialize when you become a social worker in child needs and child protective services. You can specialize in prisons. You can specialize in local community health centers. You can be the social worker that works for the public school system. You can be a family specialist. You can work for the government, or you can just set up a private practice. Okay, and then all hospitals have social workers that are super important in terms of networking you to the potential people that you're going to need, like home health aid, like psychological support services. Okay, on and on and on. So that's a big part of the discharge from a hospital. Okay, is working with that social worker. She may direct you to a nursing home at first, followed up by home health aid, on and on. It all depends on your background and your family support. Okay, awesome. Alrighty, guys, so that's the drill for this week. Email me if you have any questions for sure, and we'll see you next time. Peace out.